its resource of water. But unfortunately, most of the time, the quality of the water remains so bad that it cannot be used for consumption and other related issues. A lot of people lose their working days because they consume low quality of water. It results in a lot of diarrheal issues, and there is a major international organization, ICDDRB, working very close to us because it's a major issue in the South Asian region. We have water in many parts of South Asia at a good quantity, but the quality of the water is having a problem. So there are a lot of ideas, techniques, and scientific knowledge which has been pumped into this area. And I will straight away go to my slides so that we can discuss from the point of view how the society can act much on assessing the water quality. Okay, now I hope things are fine. The slides are visible. So I'll go ahead with my presentation. In this presentation, basically what I am trying to indicate is like what can be a framework which can be generated for water quality based risk assessment for a lot of open access aquatic resources. We have a lot of open access aquatic resources like lakes, rivers, ponds, then other water storage facilities. But this water quality assessment is not really taken per se. So we can involve the people, they can contribute to the water quality assessment, and we can use something like satellite remote sensing, which is a technology which is in its advent in the last 2 decades. So I am trying to speak on those aspects, even to the theme of the World Water Days on groundwater, like making visible the invisible. I am trying to go from the visible part of the open water bodies and to see like what is hidden in the visible part and what all invisible things can be looked upon for assessing the water quality using the visible signals what we are getting from the water bodies. First, let me introduce my presentation. I will be basically introducing like what is citizen science, how citizen science can help in assessing the real science fundamentals. Then I slowly go into like a case study where I have involved citizens to assess the water quality of a lake. And then I will be progressing further to indicate like how this can be extended to different applications. There are a lot of applications. When we have the water quality, it is not only for the domestic consumption. There are a lot of applications related to water quality. I will be discussing some of the case studies also with respect to the study which we have conducted back in India in Lake Vembanad. Still, my team is working on that. So I'll be first browsing through the background, introduction, and definition on citizen science. If you look at the science, what was happening in the earlier part of the science history, that means the scientific discoveries, what we know till 20th century, most of these discoveries were individual based or self-funded. You name the discovery, you know the person. For example, if I say photoelectric effect, theory of relativity, or Brownian motion, we don't forget Albert Einstein. If we say periodic table, definitely we tell it as Mendeleev's periodic table. If we say about the law of inheritance or the basis of genetics, we know Gregor Johann Mendel. When we talk about the n number of discoveries what Edison made, even it is bulb or motion picture cameras or different things, we know that it is Thomas Alva Edison. Atomic theory, we remember that it is Dalton. And when it comes to laws of falling body, like gravity and the laws of falling body, we know Galileo Galilei, and we know the Archimedes principle. By name, it's Archimedes. When it comes to cell, we know it is Robert Hooke. So there are different people. When theory, the law of gravitation, it is by Sir Isaac Newton. So we know the people. We know the discovery also. This was what was happening in the earlier part of the 20th century or the discoveries until the 20th century. All these things you can see like the individuals because of their...
Not audible.
I'm not audible. Hello?
We can hear you.
Hello?
I
Yes,
think you are
audible.
fine. I guess you are fine. We listen to you. Maybe the other person, he or she might have some problem. We hear you clearly.
Okay.
Yes.
Then. Okay, so we know the people they discovered something, and we know them that individually because of their intelligence they have discovered something, and most of these things were self-funded. Either the funds they have access individually, they use those funds and they do these discoveries. But when we know that what are the discoveries, what happened in the recent past, since 20th century to the recent past, if you look into the Nobel Prizes also, we know that such and such thing happened, a discovery happened. It has made wonderful revolution in the society also, but we don't remember the people. I have listed some of these things. I am sure like most of you will not be able to tell who discovered this. Like, you know, lithium ion batteries are making wonders, but we really don't know the people who are really behind it. The first reason is like, it is not individual based. Most of the time it is interdisciplinary. For example, when it came to the studies of the structure and function of the ribosome in chemistry, it was a person who was basically having his academic qualifications in physics. He is winning a Nobel Prize in chemistry. Like where a particular person in his own discipline is winning the Nobel Prize in his own discipline. So things are changing. A person from his background is winning. So I am like we don't know people about discoveries because it is a teamwork. Disciplines have its barriers. People work in interdisciplinary aspects, and most of these things are funded through grants which are aided through a network. It's not individual based rather it is teamwork. That is, people are sometimes more labs are contributing, different countries are contributing to the same discovery. So such and such thing is happening since 20th century till the recent past. But of late, what we see is like there are a lot of organizations which are coming up with the aspect called citizen science, the collection and analysis of data relating to natural world by members of general public. They are not trained academicians. They are not so-called the intellectuals of the country. They are just common people who have some interest in that specific aspect. For example, there are a lot of citizen science group in amateur astronomy. Citizen science oceanography is very interesting. Like we have a continuous plankton recorder based in United Kingdom, where they are using opportunities for shipping. Whenever there is an opportunity for shipping, the instrument is going along with the ships in different paths. The information is continuous. The butterfly counts active group in citizen science. They are interested in butterflies. They move behind the butterflies. A lot of data is generated. Bird watchers, there are n number of bird watchers. Even among us also, there can be some bird watchers who are interested in birds, not specialized in ornithology. Just because they are interested in birds, they go for bird watching. There are a lot of people working on coral reefs. They are not really the marine biologists or the scientists who are involved in coral reef taxonomy or something, just out of their passion. I personally know a chemical engineer who was working in a very good position. He came for diving in Andaman Nicobar group of islands. He became fascinated with the reefs and he's jumping into the reefs and doing his work. So such things are happening. A lot of people who are not really into that particular scientific subject, they are getting involved in the subject just because they love that particular area and they contribute to the happening also. A lot of farm groups where they conserve the seeds. It is happening in art and history also. What is the advantage of citizen science? As a scientist, the scientific team has got its own limitation in doing the measurements far away. For example, when the measurements are happening in places which are not accessible to that scientific group, probably they may have to put in a lot of energy, a lot of budget, money to go to a particular location and do the measurements. Imagine if you can give a small equipment to a group of people who can go to a remote, who stay in a remote location. Just before going to their occupation, they can do one measurement. We get a morning observation. During their lunch break, they do a small observation for 10 minutes. We get an information. After their work is done, again they do an observation. So we get 3 times of observation if a person is spending some half an hour in his entire 24 hours day. So such people, if we can engage them with small equipments, which can be ideal for citizen science measurement, then it can do wonders. Such people, they can facilitate long time series and extended areas, a spatial extent. For example, if you are studying a lake which is having a 100-kilometer length or 100-kilometer wide area, to do the measurements in all the locations by a scientific team, it is almost impossible. But if we give a small equipment to all these people residing all along the lake, who is that particular lake, they do the measurements and they can do wonders. So if we this type of global, we can have global. So a scientist being in Bangladesh or an academician being in Bangladesh, if we access the global network to do this particular type of activity, he is getting a global database. So it is comparatively less expensive than the in situ sampling. For example, when a scientist is going to that has to be paid, all those things. This is a voluntary service. Citizen science is mostly a voluntary service because they are interested in that activity and they are doing something, and a lot of data is generated, which is helpful in conserving that particular activity, what the people are doing. So that is the beauty of citizen science. So I am telling about a lake called Vembanad Lake. I am basically from a place called Cochin in Kerala. The place is near to that location in the Vembanad Lake. It is famous for houseboats and all. A lot of tourists come in. A lot of hospitality industries thriving in that location. A lot of fish farming activity, agricultural activity. The famous agricultural scientist M.S. Swaminathan was born in one of those areas known as Kuttanad. The place is called Mangumbu. M.S. Swaminathan, M stands for Mangumbu. So Mangumbu is a place in Kuttanad. So it also falls under Vembanad Lake. He is passionate about Vembanad Lake. So I have taken this Vembanad Lake, which is a Ramsar site, as a typical case study, which can be extended to different parts of the world. So this is one of the most important Ramsar sites. I think I'll just hide my panel. Okay, because it made disturb the slides. So this is one of the 3 Ramsar sites in Kerala, the place, the state where I come from. It is in the southern part of India, exactly speaking, southwest part of India. This is one of the largest lake systems on the southwest coast of India. Into this lake, around 10 rivers, they drain into this lake. And the total drainage area is represented around 15,770 square kilometers. It is almost 40% of the area of the state. And it is a critically vulnerable coastal area. What is meant by critically vulnerable coastal area? If there are people residing in and around a particular conservation oriented important site, we cannot impose the conservation rules as such, because the livelihood of the people is very much directly dependent on the resource. So here in the Lake Vembanad, water is a resource and the livelihood of the people is dependent on the water as a resource. So it is a critical vulnerable coastal area. The area being a Ramsar site, it has to be conserved, but at the same time, we cannot disturb the livelihood of the people because a lot of people are residing in and around the lake. So it is coming under the CRS notification 2011 as CVCA. It's a critically vulnerable coastal area, but at the same time, the people have to be promoted for their own livelihood and related activities, and water is the most important resource here. So what we did was, like, as scientists, we will do some we will collect some information from different parts of this lake. There are around 13 stations, and on 21 days basis we are taking some samplings, and we are getting some information about the water quality, because this is used for, I'm basically a scientist who is working in fisheries and aquaculture. So a lot of capture and related fisheries activity, freshwater aquaculture activities, coastal aquaculture activities, rice farming. The place is famous for a saline resistant rice variety called Pokali. Then the upper stretches, they have a different rice varieties which is favoring the freshwater high level water systems. Tourism is very famous in this area. It is the global tourism map. A lot of tourists, floating tourists come to this area. So different types of activities are happening in this Vembanad Lake area. So the quality of the water is the key to all these programs. Because when a tourist is coming to the activity, if the water is very turbid and they cannot see the beauty of the water, they feel bad. So the quality of the water from tourism point of view is also important. And the people who are residing in and around the lake, they use the lake water as a source for their domestic consumption and related purposes also. So for farming, for domestic consumption, for their own livelihood, like tourism and related activities also, this lake water is very important. The lake is getting degraded, as is happening for the lacustrine ecosystem everywhere globally. People really don't understand the value of the lake, and a lot of problems happen. It comes in different forms of threats. When a lot of people are staying in around, lake becomes a dumping yard. People find it and easily access all the resources. You know that they are using that water, but unknowingly or knowingly, they dump a lot of domestic waste into that. When the industries are there in and around the lake, industrial pollution is definite to happen. Heavy metals, pesticides, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbon, all these things come to the lakes. In most of the South Asian countries, we have issues related to such industrial pollution because the pollutants have contaminated the water. It is not visible, it is invisible. So people tend to consume the water. Even if you use the normal filtration systems and all, such sort of pollutions will not go away from the water easily. So it slowly gets accumulated in the human body and creates a lot of human health related issues. Then when waste and other material are going into the lake water, the lake becomes rich in nutrients. We call technically it as eutrophication. So the lake becomes rich in nutrients, and it promotes the growth of aquatic vegetation. So that happens. When people are residing in and around, we know that the sanitation and hygiene in and around such localities sometimes tend to become very bad. They may have their own toilets and other things, but the problem is like when it comes to the septic tank may be very close to the water body, and with the increasing mean sea level, and if the particular area is having tidal influence, we have these problems in southern Bangladesh also, and many parts of South Asia. Particularly in this locality where I am studying also, we have this problem. The sea level is slightly increasing, and because of the increasing sea level, the septic tanks becomes submerged during the high tide time, and the water gets contaminated with the septic pollution, and a lot of fecal contamination is happening. All these things promote a lot of aquatic weed infestation. You can see the Icornia meadow here. It looks beautiful because of the violet flowers, but inflorescence is very beautiful, but per se it indicates that this habitat is dying or degrading. Now, how we established citizen scientists to measure the water quality? That will be explained in this part of the presentation. For a citizen science activity to happen, I told first we should have a handy instrument which can be measured by the citizen scientist. So the instrument in this case, hello, am I with you?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have this equipment called SECI disk. People, those who are working in water quality related measurements, they are familiar with SECI disk. So in this case, what we did was that we improvised this SECI disk. This is a 3D printed SECI disk. It's a paper printed, 3D printed SECI disk, and it is handheld. It can be inserted in the pocket of the pant also. It's so small, it can be inserted in the pocket of your pant. It can be carried easily, and we have pasted a color code which is from 1 to 21. You can see the bluish to yellowish to greenish, greenish to yellowish to brownish, dark brown shades. These shades represent the color of the water. Okay, so the color of the water is having some indication to the quality of the water. So we have pasted it. I will tell how we are assessing this. So the people can say that if it is a particular color, they can put the code number 1. If it is very bad, they can put the code number 21 also. So like that, we can have the SECI disk as an equipment. And when they are generating this data should reach the right people. So we have developed a mobile application. This is in Google Play Store. The mobile application's name is Turb Aqua. This was developed by my parent institute back in India, Central Marine Fisheries Research Institute, and I am the person who developed this. So the name of the application is Turb Aqua. So what this mobile application is doing, this can be installed in smartphones, and when the people are doing the installation, we tend to do a small registration purpose based on an OTP, so that their mobile number will be registered in our server. So we know that if the mobile number is registered, it indicates that we know the customers in general. Because for getting a mobile number or a SIM card, you have to provide the customer information. So this information is already there. So we register the mobile number with the help of an OTP. Then the people can input their details. When they are using this SECI disk, they can easily input their details. The app will automatically prod their location and tell that they are from this location, and they have this information to share with. And we have asked them to take a photograph and share through this application also. So we get the color of the water using the photograph. They can tell about the color of the water using the SECI disk. I told about the color code 1 to 21. They can tell about the SECI depth. This disk is used to measure the depth, SECI depth of the water. SECI depth is a is a measurement which we are using to know the turbidity of the water, how turbid the water is. So these three things will be given as input in this mobile application. So we have taken the help of colleges. There were around 16 colleges in and around this lake vicinity. So we approached the faculty, mostly the faculty related to life sciences and environmental sciences. So there are a lot of postgraduate program going on. We opted for postgraduate students and faculty as the coordinators, and we organized a training program at our own institute. We called all of them and we conducted a training program. We told them how to use this disk. We installed the mobile application in all their smartphones and taken them to different parts of the webinar lake and shown them how to use the disk and enter the data. So this disk were handed over to the faculty, respective faculty. If we are giving one disk to a faculty, at least 10 to 15 students, at some instances, there were 25 students also under one faculty, and they will be doing the measurements in the webinar on rotation basis. If one person can do for 1 week, then he loses the chance, it is transferred to the next person and the faculty is monitoring it. So we had this 16 colleges from the vicinity. So we have people, we have equipment, and we have a mobile application which can send the data to the server of the scientist. So we developed a manual. This manual is available in both the local language. The place where I come from, the local language is called Malayalam. So we developed this manual in Malayalam. The English part of the manual is also available, because if people are interested in replicating the same example in different places, this can be downloaded from the repository. ePrints CMFR, it is the repository of CMFR, where you can access the articles. So you can CMFR repository and download this manual also. It's freely available. In this, we have clearly described how a person can operate this mini Secchi disk, which is a 3D printed Secchi disk. So it is clearly indicated how it can be done, how the measurement can be done, and how they can give the input into the mobile application so that the data will reach to us. So how in general it is being done, I am indicating like the person is operating from near the water. We have to have the water surface measurements, and then we will lower the disk very slowly so that the disk will disappear at a particular depth. The disappearance of the disk depends upon the turbidity of the water. If the water is very clear, the disk will disappear after a long time. If the water is very turbid, it will disappear very fast. So the clear water will have deeper Secchi depth, and turbid water will have shorter Secchi depth. So it can be observed with the help of the disk, and halfway through the disappearance of the disk, half depth of the disappearance of the disk is white in color. If they look at the disk, they will know the color of the water. So I told about the color code which I have given, 1 to 21. So they can easily mention what is the color code, and they can get the color information also. They can take using it's a smartphone, they have a camera, so they can take the image of the water, and it can also be uploaded to the mobile application. So this is how it is being done. You can see like how it is done, how the water color is measured, how Secchi depth is measured, and how it is varying with different types of water. When it is less turbid, when it is moderately turbid, and when it is heavily turbid, how the disappearance happen. We can do, if you are interested in taking up this activity, and if you want to train somebody, if such a water body is not in the vicinity of the teaching location, you can have different transparent sticks. Like you can take a bucket, you can have different transparent sticks. Like you can have turbid water, you can have clear water, and you can have semi-turbid waters, and you can demonstrate it in the buckets also. That is possible. This is published in the manuscript also by our team. So you can use this mechanism also. So we use this thing, and it is a hand holding devices which can sit in your palm, and the scale is easily visible. The 1 to 21 scale is also easily visible. And how the data is transmitted, you have to install, just a minute. Suddenly my battery was down, so I just wanted to switch on the charger. Okay, so in this mobile application, you can go to the Google Play Store. The link is given. You can download the application and install it in your mobile. When you are doing the installation process, I told we are requesting an OTP to ensure that the mobile number is registered with us, so that we know the customer information. you have to keep your location facility in the mobile on, so that the location, when you are transferring the data, it will be automatically generated and given to us. You can have a user ID and password and login. So once you do the registration, only we take the registration when you're doing for the first time, the information is available, and you can start sending the data as I was indicating. So the college students was the first part of the integration of citizen scientists. Around 250 students, I told it was 16 colleges. They joined, and the media, the local media really supported us, whether it is print or visual or radios, all media supported us in a big way, because the people locally, they know that the lake is in a critical or endangered stage, and if a team is coming up for such activity where the water quality can be improved, the lake has got a chance to improve its water quality. So the media also was supporting the activity. For the second step, from the college students, we matured to the people who are working, who are depending upon the lake. For example, the houseboat owners, we approached the houseboat owners. They are employees who are working in the houseboats. Sorry. When they are not operating their houseboats, they can get involved in this activity. There were some lawyers organizations who were interested in environmental activities. So we aptly called the mayor of Chin City. She came for the inauguration of the workshop, and stakeholders were involved. Local fishermen also became part of this. So around 70 different stakeholders. We call mostly the leaders who can get the training from us and can teach others also. So we call around 70 participants from different sectors and gave them hands-on training on both second disk operation and how to use the Turb Aqua mobile application. So I told this was very successful. We could integrate our scientific knowledge with the citizens. So what we really gained, I told about the citizen scientist, how the water quality information can be gathered, and what we really gained. So in this slide, you can see the first picture, the left-hand side picture. It's a map. It's a map of the lake. You can see some yellow circle dots, diametrically bigger dots. So those represents the yellow dots represents the locations from where the citizen scientists got their information. But you can see like some dots which are in the land part also. The slightly reddish color area indicates the land part, and bluish color indicates the water part. But these yellow parts, the people who are not knowing about the lake, they may be thinking that it is from the land. But these are some, I told 10 rivers are getting discharged. So some of the people, they were from this faraway locations. So they could do the measurements in those rivers or tributaries which is coming to the Veminad. So we got a more spatial information. As scientists, I was telling, we were doing the measurements only in 13 locations. Those locations are given as the saffron dots here. So the saffron dots are very less in numbers, only 13 locations. And you can see the yellow dots. It's especially covering the entire area. And you can see the frequency of observations. Large number of data is coming from certain locations. So the number of observations are also more, spatially it is covering more area. So based on the color what they have given, we have plotted the map and indicated the color of the water in the Veminad Lake. So the color of the Veminad Lake based on the citizen scientist input is approximately like this. Now we developed a relation between the Seki depth which was given, and we wanted to see like how good we can relate that to the turbidity of the water. And the images, I told they were sending the color of the images also. So the images were corresponding to the different Forel UL color codes. That is a color code I was indicating 1 to 21. In this particular lake, the color codes were from 11 to 21. That means they were almost in the greenish to yellowish to brownish shades. Even the dark brown shade, brownish turbid waters were also available. So in this different color codes, we got the images. Now what we are using is like we are trying to see that the color of the water indicates the spectral character of the water. How the color of the water is, it is because there are a lot of optical constituents present in the water. It may be total suspended sediments. It can be colored, dissolved organic matter. It can be the water per se and other material like chlorophyll, the pigments and other things. All these things contributes to the color of the water. So if we have this information, we will be approximately able to tell what optical constituent is contributing to the color of the water, whether it is sediment, whether it is phytoplankton, whether it is colored dissolved organic matter, or the good quality water itself. So generally, we also have norms like if we see turbid water, we tend to not use it. In the bottle, if there is some turbidity, we tend not to use it. There are mechanisms of clearing it and using it because there are no other options available in places, in locations. We have mechanisms of using such water also, because when there is flood occurring or when there are problems, when there is severe scarcity of water, people are forced to use such water which is comparatively inferior in quality for consumption. So in this lake, detritus matter was the most dominant composition. Like that means the turbidity of the lake was mostly contributed by the detrital matter. That is why the lake is mostly brown in color in the places where we got that brownish color. And the remote sensing reflectance, the reflectance what is coming from the water also indicates that it is having high sediments or detrital matter. So there are different light absorbing components what are present in the water. The color of the water approximately indicate the type or quality of the water also. So you can see I was telling about the yellow substances. The water will be like this. These all images are from the lake. If it is greenish, there is a phytoplankton bloom or phytoplankton component present there. If it is heavily turbid, there are a lot of suspended material present in the location. So we have a biooptics lab and we have done the biooptics analysis. What are the optical constituents in the water? And it was all indicating that the water is much case 2. It is containing relatively good contribution of phytoplankton plus colored dissolved organic matter and a majority towards the detrital absorption. So different zones of the lake was behaving differently. When it comes to the northern zone, where it is very close to the coastal waters, it was the dominance was for detrital matter in this region. The water was brownish green in color. This is exactly the bar mouth in Cochin area where there is a shipping channel. There is a port there. So the entry of the coastal waters happen. It is a saline zone. The northern zone is a saline zone. So there the water was mostly brownish green in color. When it comes to the central zone, it is having more phytoplankton and related things because a lot of farming activity happens in and around the land area. So the fertilizers come to this area, the domestic effluents from the residential locations also come to this area. So the central zone was slightly greenish in color. And the inshore water, it was like slightly, if we move from the central zone to the Barmouth area, if we further move into the coastal areas was not much polluted. Like we had good absorptions happening in the colored dissolved organic matter. Whatever problem was happening in the inland waters, slight reflectance of that in the form of colored dissolved organic matter was seen in the inshore waters. So you can see like we can compare this with the satellite remote sensing data. Now we have a lot of land satellites with high resolution of the water body. So we can use such satellite data information plus the information given by the citizen scientists to see what is the spectral reflectance of the water and what is contributing to that particular water body. So you can see if it is blue in color, how the spectral reflectance is. If there is some presence of phytoplankton, how the spectral reflectance is varying. All these things are indicated in this figure. So when it becomes turbid or when it is become bloomish, we have different spectral signatures. All these are typical indication of case 2 waters where the optical constituents present in the water is very complex. Now we are bringing in the citizen science information also. They give us some information. Basically, now as a scientist, we have in situ data, what we are collecting for the scientific purposes. We have satellite remote sensing information. So we can validate satellite remote sensing information with the in situ data. But the problem with this is that there is not continuous monitoring throughout. So sometimes when the satellite path is there, we don't get the information and a particular information is missing. So if citizen scientists can bridge the gap, the real research gap between satellite monitoring and in situ sampling, that can be a great asset. And further, they are sending us a lot of images also. Nowadays, the images has got a lot of utility, like the artificial intelligence tools, what we are using in different applications, or the machine learning techniques, what we are using in different applications. Such applications can be used for lake images also to understand the spectral information which can happen in those locations. Even if the person is making a human related subjective error, that can be rectified with the help of the image analysis with the advanced tools available in artificial intelligence also. So we can have digital analysis of the watercolor. This image is generated by the citizens and the analysis can happen at a higher scientific level in a reputed scientific laboratory. So at CMOFRI, we are doing such image analysis and we are seeing like how we can extract the color of the water and then come to the quality of the water. So the watercolor analysis from the images also clearly indicated that it is supporting the in situ measurements as well as citizen scientist measurement. It is very closely coming we could ascertain that whatever we are getting from the satellite remote sensing plus our in situ sampling from the citizen scientist and from the images, it could corroborate much of our challenges with respect to this particular water body. So this you can see the smartphone images collected by the citizens. I was telling about the data, so you can see approximately it is covering larger portion. But here the major lacuna what we are finding is like we don't get much images from the deeper side of the water body. People are residing in the vicinity of the lake, so they do the measurements very close to the bank of the lake. So unless and until some houseboat people are or some fishermen are doing some observation, we don't get the observation from the middle part of the lake, which is a major lacuna in this case. Now, I told that when we have such a mechanism, how to study this water quality applications in the real life incident. This is an incident. This is a flat demolition which happened in the recent past in the lake. Because of the Supreme Court order, some flats, they violated the coastal regulation zone rules, and the Supreme Court ordered that the flats should be demolished. So when the flats are demolished, it's a huge civil structure. You can see from the video that how big is the structure and how much debris can be created out of this demolition. But since CRZ rules was for protecting the lake, the environmentalists were particular that if we are demolishing the flat, how much the water quality will be disturbed. But the authorities or administration, because it's a court ruling, they have to do it, and not much debris will be falling into the lake. But when the debris were falling, they were creating a lot of aerosols. You can see the amount of smoke type aerosols, cement aerosols, or the civil structure debris aerosol which is pumped into the atmosphere. At the same time, leachates related to the civil structures that can also come into the lake water. So when this happened, there was no real-time information, but we had some citizen scientist information from the sites and our own sites. So using corroborating this information, we could see like we could get 7 stations in the vicinity of one of the flat demolition and 3 stations in the vicinity of another demolition. The demolition happened in January 2020 and 12th January 2020. So after both the demolition, we got some information from these stations very close to the vicinity of the flats, and we could see like there was variation. There was a lot of variation happening in the water quality also. So in the initial stages, up to the 5 weeks post demolition, there was a serious problem with respect to the water color. We did our own measurements with respect to salinity, dissolved oxygen and pH, and we could see like the leachates, the alkaline leachates are elevating the salinity, plus the higher salinity along with the high tide, it is creating some problem. The DO was significantly low in the initial period up to 2nd week, and slowly it was progressing with the settlement of the suspended matter. The pH was significantly high during all the 5 weeks because the leaching of hydroxyl ions were happening. So with the study, we could see like how much time the lake took to recoup itself. The relative change took almost 5 weeks to come to almost close to the normalcy state, and this was also published in remote sensing. And further, this is one application. The second application is with respect to the extent of flooding, what is happening in the lake vicinity. When the flooding is happening, again, the water becomes very turbid. It is rainy season. We wanted to have an information on the flooded areas alongside, like how much water is going from the lake to the other areas and how is affecting the drinking water quality. And the lake got inflated to the level of 2.78 times, almost 3 times the lakes got inflated during the flooding. Once in a century flood also we could record. It happened in 2012 and 18 August, even I was a sufferer during this floods. My house was also underwater for around 4 feet. The interesting thing is, like, when we are doing such mapping, satellite remote sensing alone will not provide accurate information. For example, when we did the flood mapping, there are some green pixels first left-hand side figure, which are indicated here in a different color. Those are paddy fields really. But when we do flood mapping with the help of satellite, it also is indicated as a flooded area, because this is a area which is below the mean sea level. It is a sub-mean sea level area. So water automatically gets flooded into the paddy fields when the paddy fields are not under cultivation. During cultivation, what the farmers are doing is that they pump the water from the paddy fields outside into the lake, and they close the paddy fields with the sluice gates and bunds, and then they start doing the paddy cropping. So when we do the satellite remote sensing techniques, it is based on the water. So it indicates that there is flood happening in those locations. So this scientist could help us in pointing out the locations where the actual flooding is happening, and we were able to eliminate the paddy fields due to the advantage we are having with the citizen scientists. Now, another important incident during the study period was Corona. Because of the COVID, there were less human to the lake because there were a lot of regulations, particularly during the lockdown in 2020. So we could see like how water quality improved in large areas of the lake during the lockdown in 2020, especially in the central and southern regions of the lake. It was improving over time in the more northern regions of lake independent of the lockdown. Even without the lockdown also, because there was an effect, a prolonged effect of 6 to 7 months, the lake in total, it improved with respect to the different optical components also. But unfortunately, what happened was that we got very less citizen scientist data also. We were urging the citizens to do it, but the regulations were not allowing them to go out and do the measurements all the time. When the regulations were eased out, we got some measurements and we could compare that with the satellite remote sensing data also. So you can see like how the things improved with respect to the remote sensing information, and on the right hand side, the information what we got from the citizen scientists, where they could tell about the color of the water based on the Forel UN classification. Now, what are we doing further? I told some very less examples, very less case studies, but what can be the mileage what we can take from such water quality studies? First thing I was telling about the waterborne diseases. So we have a strategy. We are working with the expertise of the Indian and the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom Plymouth Marine Laboratory, we are having a strong collaboration where we are trying to see like the different optical components. I was telling about the phytoplankton component, the total suspended sediment component, the colored dissolved organic matter, and water per se. So in this component, if we are trying to see like how the component variations is affecting the microbial flora of the lake. I told there is a lot of fecal contamination happening in the lake. So there can be fecal contamination associated when fecal contamination is there, the enterobacteria, sometimes Vibrio also will be prevalent in this area, E. coli can be prevalent in this area. Such microbial population, how they are interacting with the different optical constituents. So if we can get the information from the citizen scientist, and if we know the interaction, what is happening between the microbial flora and this different optical constituents, we can develop algorithms, we can have models. At the same time, these models get repeatedly validated based on the feedback of the citizen scientists, and we can give advisories. Like a particular area, we can tell how best there is a possibility of an epidemic breakdown. When the rains starts, the floods come in, the water quality is bad. Sometimes people start consuming this water, but unfortunately in this area, people regularly boil water and use it for their consumption. But in many cases, they don't use it. But we can tell qualitatively a particular location. If there is a threat, we can give an advisory. If we can give an advisory, we can solve a lot of problems. This can be informed to the local government because we can predict the epidemic possibilities. There can be public outreach, and we can come up with proper ideas how to protect a particular location if it is having a serious of the experience what we gained, we have come up with another mobile application. This is still to be put in the Play Store because of the COVID and related regulations. We know that our citizen science activities also are coming down because there were a lot of regulations in place and people don't want to wear the mask and go down and do the measurements or take permission and go and do the measurements. So such problems were there. We developed another application which is in the anvil. The application is known as Cleanse, where we are trying to see the sanitation facility and the availability of clean drinking water to the coastal population. And in this study, we are trying to take samples also with the help of the citizen scientists and try to see like how the microbial flora is having problems with the antibiotics which are prevalently used in this region. And we know that during COVID time, we have what we can say indiscriminately used antibiotics because people were having a fear psycho. I will not blame the people. As a scientist, when I came to Bangladesh and within one month there was a lockdown, and I was with my 2.5 years old daughter that time with me, with my wife. So I was also worried when the lockdown was announced and people were telling such a big virus is coming and going to infect the entire humanity. I was also worried. I purchased medicines worth 10 Bangladeshi. I can imagine like how much medicine would have been purchased by other people who are not having scientific knowledge also. So we want to know, like, we know that there is indiscriminate use of antibiotics in the South Asian region, and it is affecting the drinking water quality also. So we were trying to use citizen scientists with the help of this mobile application Cleanse. But here in this case, we have to literally go and collect the samples. That issue is there. So we are trying to see like how best we can refine it and we can put it in Google Play Store and engage citizen scientists in this activity. Next thing is like I was telling about the lake system. We are not looking into the coastal area system, but it is also having a lot of activities. So we wanted to disseminate this technology to the coastal areas also. So we have developed another pathways of dispersal for cholera and solution tools. Because the coastal areas, there are reservoirs of cholera also. So we wanted to see like how best is our coastal waters, because coastal waters also have got a lot of influence on tourism, because in this area, peninsular India, there are a lot of places where there are tourists coming in to enjoy the beaches and all. So we want to keep blue flags and red flags. Like blue flags means it is not having issue of microbial contamination. Red flag means microbial contamination can be prevalent. So for the extension of this particular work into the coastal areas, so that it can come up with an operational advisory so that tourism can be promoted in such locations where the microbial contamination is. Further improve upon European Space Agency utilized for such activities. So we have a program called Vigion, where we are trying to see like how the waterborne infectious diseases and global earth observation in the near shore can be utilized. There is a global network called Onward. This network's name is Onward. Anybody who is interested in water quality related to waterborne diseases, they can be part of the network. I am part of the network and I work in the director board level. So this network support different activities. Last month, there was a series of lectures from different globally renowned scientists. They were indicating on water quality and water associated themes. The presentation which I am giving, I gave in that network also. The activity is not done by me as an individual alone. There are a lot of people who is supporting me. These are my research scholars in my lab. Further, we have a close association with the Nansen Environmental Research Center in India, Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, National Institute of Oceanography, and my parent organization, Central Marine Fisheries Research Institute. All these scholars work in my parent research institute, Central Marine Fisheries Research Institute, and we do our research here. So this is a small presentation which I could make on the water quality assessment risk framework. And now I am open for the questions. I hope I could disseminate some ideas, some important tools which people can use further in improving the water quality. Like we can see something on the water bodies and we can come to the invisible components water present there and try to improve the quality of the liquid strain system in and around South Asia. So thank you for the wonderful opportunity provided. I am so grateful for CIRDAP for giving me this platform. So let us have a discussion. I am open for questions. Thank you.
Uh, we do not hear you, Maisha.
I was just saying thank you for the lively presentation. The floor is now open for the question answer session. So if anyone has any question, please raise your hand, or you can also share it on the chat box.
Is there any, of course, I think there will be many questions here. I'm from economics, so I do understand little about these things. Only thing I have implication for them, for me. So please raise your hand, and then I will provide feedback from the presenter later. Anyone to start?
The questions can be very, very basic also. And if you want to know about something related to this, how you can have the fraternity network, everything I am going to answer. Please be.
No? Well, I have a couple of basic questions, but I want to see others, those who are in this field. I want to ask this question from them first. I think Sarah is trying to ask questions. No? Okay, let me start one basic question. Like when we say, like when you said like citizen science tools versus science tools, what is different there between these two?
Okay, the basic difference is like when we are using the science, it's a science tools what are used by the citizens. The difference is in the level of education and experience. For example, when a scientific team is doing the analysis, the number of outliers what we are getting will be less. But when the citizens are doing the same thing, have different types of to remove the data which is not of good quality. There will be data which is not really worth enough to do the scientific analysis. So we have to remove the outliers. So for doing that, we should have some other supporting evidences which has to come from the citizens' measurements itself. For example, in this case, I was telling that the citizens are taking the images using their mobile phones. So when they are giving an error in the color code, maybe human error can happen when we are telling from 1 to 21, or when they are giving the input also, there can be error. We could see like there can be error in the color code to the tune of 4 digits. Like for example, if it is 11, sometimes they have indicated 15. If it is 15, sometimes they have indicated 11. So like that, there can be changes also. This human error can be nullified, or we can have quality check if we have the images. We do the analysis of the images, and from the images, the spectral color is generated, and we see like how best the image is suiting to a particular color code. So that sort of changes we can make with in addition. So this particular aspect of human error is much more when non-trained academicians are used for collecting scientific information. The equipment remains the same, the tools remains the same, but the people who are involved, their expertise may vary. But sometimes we get very good quality data. Why success?
So you are saying in terms of tools, all are scientific tools, right? So
yes, exactly.
For collecting, I mean, the information on how they are doing it, how they're processing. So maybe when it says scientific tool or scientist, maybe you are very professional, and citizen sciences means maybe less professional sometimes, right?
Yes, layman, exactly.
Okay, layman. Sometimes, like say, I see in our villages, people call, okay, today there will be rain. Yeah. How? That's some kind of like observations from like years, and so they're not as predictor as like I mean weather scientists, but still they're, I mean, everyday life they're making prediction and then going on with that. So when you're saying that helping forecast, how do you generate forecast? Like when you are using remote sensing, and also you are using like say as you said Sekki disk depth, right? Mm-hmm. So if there are different group in different region in different time, when you are plotting them in one like say I mean figure, and then we're getting different color, maybe because of differences in time, or maybe because of differences in region. So how do you process it when you go back?
Okay. So what we are doing is like, based on these experimental data sets, what we are receiving, we are generating an epidemiological model for giving the forecast. So we have to first develop the model. So for developing the model, these data sets will be. So we have a time series data set and we have developed a model. And for that model, the model can work with some input variables. So for running a forecast, what we take is like, we will take the historical data. We have already tuned the historical data, and some of the observations we will test with the historical data, and then we will fine tune the model. So approximately based on the time series information, what we are obtaining, we are developing some sort of algorithms which can support the prediction. Like for example, if the SST or the color pigment data available, or the total suspended sediments available, and if from the color we are able to approximately judge what is the type of phytoplankton and the season and all those things, we are approximately able to say that if this particular situation is developing, there can be an outbreak in 1 or 2 days. Then it is generated as a health advisory and disseminated. That's how it is being done. Sorry.
My question is like, when we are like, say, if we depend on citizen, then it's very difficult to see like citizen of a region, like collecting data for like, say, repeatedly, say 10, 20 times or in 10, 20 years, right? Because for forecast, you need a series and
Yes,
with the
yes.
same type, same quality, something like that.
Yes.
So is it practical to expect such kind of series?
No, yes, exactly. That's why exactly we took 13 stations along with the citizen scientists. As a scientific team, we had our own measurements. It's the citizen scientist data alone cannot go for a scientific program. So what we did was like, we in the entire lake stretch, we have taken 13 stations and we were doing our own measurements in the frequency of every 21 days. After 21 days, we were doing the measurements by our own. So our team is also involved in the measurements, and that measurements is not with a simple instrument. We were doing this simple instrument. Along with this simple instrument, we were using sophisticated instruments, which is a costlier instrument. So we were using such instruments to measure the quality of the water, and we were trying to see like how best it is related with the equipment which citizen scientists are also using, and how their data in the respective region is really corroborating with our own findings. So that is how we are trying to eliminate the errors what is happening with respect to the citizen scientists. That's how we went ahead.
I'm just, since you are in SAARC Agriculture Center, so using those tools, like if we want to kind of link water quality with the performance of aquaculture or agriculture, is there any kind of study in that area?
Yes. Basically, for example, in the case of aquaculture activities, aquaculture is also having a lot of implications in water quality. So if the quality of the water which is going into the farms, if it is not good, it is really creating a problem. There is direct impacts. Like for example, if the color of the water is so much greenish, and greenish means there is a lot of phytoplankton, there is a bloom happening. And we know the hydrodynamics of the water. And if we can generate an advisory telling the aqua farmers that this particular greenish thing is going to your way, what the aqua farmers can do is like, they can close the sluice. Closing the sluice means the water will not enter their farming systems. They need not take such waters. They can wait for the water to subside and become clearer and then use that water. And if the water is really toxic and it is going to create a problem for the farms, even how best we try to prevent some of the blooming what is happening, it will somehow enter the farms in different ways. Maybe through the wind or something, or some other action, it enters the farming areas. And once it enters into the farming area, it really creates problem. It creates a havoc. We did one such study with the Kerala University of Fisheries and Ocean Studies. When a blooming happened, we did one study like that. So in those occasions, if the aqua farmers are ready for their harvesting, they can at least plan for their harvesting a little before. Otherwise, if they don't harvest, sometimes they will lose the entire crop. So such advisories can be given with a specialized consultation with the scientist and support the aqua farmers. So when it comes to agriculture also, the flood advisory maps I'm telling, the paddy fields which are there, some of the paddies cannot tolerate the flood for a longer time. So some paddy can grow in the water column also, but some paddies are not resistant to such high column waters. So what we can say, if we can generate a flood advisory map and tell them these areas are going to get flooded for this many days, the farmers can take precautions accordingly. So these are some of the areas which we are trying to bridge in this advance for the farmers also. That's how we are trying.
I mean, kind of food security and food safety.
Yes.
But my question is like, at this juncture, sometimes like, as you said, waterborne infectious disease.
Yeah.
So it could be like when we're consuming fish. So when
Yeah.
they're having fish, it could be borne by water. But when we're utilizing water for crop production, we're utilizing, water for aquaculture. And in that case, like in production point, if they're infected, so it's even more serious. Like as we say in groundwater in case of Bangladesh,
Yeah,
SAARC,
yeah.
So these are serious. So safe drinking water. It's only water, but waterborne diseases through crops and fish and all those things, there are concerns. Now, is it like if we can show science about that kind of monitoring and that kind of applicable tools to the in agriculture and aquaculture, maybe they are limited.
Yes. We targeted specific groups also. I was telling about the tourism people, because the turbidity of the water is directly related to them. If the water is turbid, the tourists may not like it. So they are also interested in measuring that and telling it. So like those groups we are targeting. And as you said, the advantage with the South Asia is like we cook and eat. We don't take things much raw. So most of these microbial infections, even though it is present in the food commodity, it will automatically die off when we cook beyond 52 or 60 degrees Celsius. So that is the advantage we are having, and we don't have much of such infections. But when it goes to temperate countries or European Union, if we are targeting the export market, then it is a major problem. If this microbial flora is there and if it is affecting the food commodity, it may sometimes impact the export also.
In this point, like, I'm sorry, since nobody else has question, I have some inquisitiveness. Like when you are storing your fish, for example, in a refrigerator, you have vegetables, you have like say fruits, you don't cook. Maybe you are cooking thoroughly your fish, and you are neutralizing. How about contamination from that to the foods that you don't cook thoroughly or you don't even cook?
Okay.
So
Right? There are a lot of mix and match up that can happen like this way. So yeah, but in general, when we say the fish is a non-fact, but we don't take it as a major serious problem, because in general in South Asia, people cook and eat. But as you said, if the fish is taken and when we are mixing the fish which is contaminated and or the water which we are taking is contaminated and we are using it for washing the vegetables and then eating it, that inoculum. But such inoculum level can be comparatively much less of microbial load. I think my friend Dr. Pradeep, he is a microbiologist. He is attending the session. Whether Pradeep will be able to answer that query?
Yeah, I would like to hear an answer from Pradeep. Dr. Pradeep, if you can explain more of this point. Yeah, it's very.
But generally, both the food items, generally we don't mix that much together, no. Then most of the microbes which are on the surface of the fish, generally the way of our storage and all, we wash and keep. So washing itself removes almost most of the bacteria and all. So that much, I don't think that much contamination will be there. And even vegetables also, we generally wash and use, no. And that also is rarely we like cucumber things only, we are just eating as raw. So I don't think that much problem will be there unless the water is so much contaminated.
I see. Well, it's a good scientific answer. Any more question from anybody? If not, then maybe it's a long presentation and also discussion. Okay, so I don't see anybody raised hand. And also usually like Dr. Ong, Popo, he has question, but today I don't see Dr. Wong to ask any question.
Yeah, he's my professor too.
Oh, I see. Well, that's it for today, and it's very eye-opening, and also from different citizen. I mean, science can also help a lot, and also in terms of like kind of in terms of kind of like disseminate, and also like I mean, to show concern about problems, like when citizens are active and they take active role in case of the kind of pollution. So I'm sure that this is only one area that they are kind of like taking action, or they are monitoring, and also they will look into different dimensions of pollution, and they will try to curb them, and also they will try to encourage others to do the similar things. Obviously, we'll have Maisha will have declaration for next webinar, and I would like to thank Dr. Vincent George for his time, and also all the participants to be patient, and then our staff, CIRDAP staffs, who kind of like spend time to arrange this one, and also special thanks to Director General of CIRDAP, who felt the necessity of building one expert database, and also like encouraging experts to present for others. With a clap to George, I would like to conclude it, and I will hand over to Maisha Jasmine for the declaration of the next one. Thank you all.
Thank you, Doctor, for sharing the presentation. I have also shared your email on the chat box. If anyone else has any question, they can reach you by your email. And for the next webinars or webinars like this, if you would like to stay connected to CIRDAP, you can find us on various social media. We are on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So thank you everyone for patiently participating in the webinar, and hope to see you on the next webinar. Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks, Maisha Jasmine. Thank you, Dr. Hilal. Thanks all the participants. Bye. Okay, I'm leaving. It's fine, no?